Hello, this is Deanne from Small But Kinda Mighty, and this is my latest video on learning through play activities. By the end of this video, you will understand the phases of the moon, how to use your iPhone to take pretty decent pictures of the moon, and how to make a Phases of the Moon journal. If you love the idea of crafts for kids that encourage them to learn while they're making, then please subscribe to my channel, and if you hit the notification bell, then you'll be notified every time I publish a new video. And please join my Learning Through Play Facebook group. Most of us with kids are anxious about back to school. In the Learning Through Play Facebook group, so far we've got 52 parents, educators and speech therapists. These folks all want to support each other, and whatever school looks like in the fall, ensure that we help our kids learn while they're at home. Based on my night activities for kids video, people not only enjoyed the firefly jar craft, but they also like the idea of pairing crafts with opportunities for learning. So in this video, I'm going to share how to make a Phases of the Moon journal. But first, before we get to making, let's make sure we understand the phases of the moon and how to explain them. In the night activities for kids video, we took a look at the lunar cycle and the beginning of the lunar cycle, the new moon. Since then, Oliver and I have been out to look at the waxing crescent moon, the first quarter moon, and the waxing gibbous moon. Next up, the full moon. Ow! Moongiant.com is my go-to resource for finding out what phase of the lunar cycle we are in and when the next major phase is coming up. And don't worry, if you don't reside in the northern hemisphere, then at the click of the mouse you can switch the lunar cycle information shown to the southern hemisphere. Now, I am not a rocket scientist. I have 2 history degrees, so I'm pretty good at research, and I was a tax consultant for over 2 decades, so I'm good at explaining things that are complicated and don't really make sense. But as I'm not an astrophysicist, I've compiled all the resources I used in researching the phases of the moon and put them in a blog post which is linked in the description box below. My first question was why we only ever see one side of the moon. Well, apparently it's because it takes the same amount of time for the moon to spin on its axis as it does to go around the Earth once, which is why we always see the same side and never get to see the far side of the moon. After the lunar cycle starts with the new moon, the moon continues to orbit around the Earth counterclockwise, and we start to see more and more of it until the full moon. The part of the moon we see grows, or waxes. At first we see the waxing crescent moon, which grows in size until approximately half of the moon is illuminated. This is called the first quarter moon. After the first quarter moon, we see the waxing gibbous moon. And gibbous, in case you were wondering, is derived from the Latin word for hump. At the full moon stage, the Earth is now between the moon and the sun, and so sunlight is fully illuminating the side of the moon that's facing the Earth. If you're wondering, like I did, why this results in a full moon instead of an eclipse, well, in my blog post, I've linked to a really good Phases of the Moon activity from the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. In it, you, or a child, can act out the phases of the moon with you or the child representing Earth and the moon represented by, well, it's a white styrofoam ball in their activity suggestion, but you could use a cantaloupe or a basketball to represent the moon. If, like me, you're not a photographer, but you'd like to take pictures of the moon during different phases for your moon journal, here's how I did it. This picture is actually of the waxing crescent moon, but as you can tell, you can't see the crescent shape. Here's how I got a picture of the actual crescent shape of the moon using my iPhone camera and my kitchen light as a stand-in for the moon. With your camera app open, press and hold on the moon and you should see a square appear and your focus will lock onto the moon. Drag your thumb down the screen and you should see the brightness level drop. This will enable you to take a picture of the moon, capturing just its illuminated shape. Before I take you through how we made our Phases of the Moon journal, if you're enjoying the concept of learning through activities and crafts, then please give this video a thumbs up. And please comment below. Is a Phases of the Moon journal something you would make for yourself? Or would you prefer to buy one that's pre-made for you? Okay, let's quickly take you through how to make a moon journal. All the materials I've used for this project are listed in the blog post, which is linked in the description box below. First, we're going to make the outside cover for your journal. For the outside cover, you'll need a manila file folder and something to decorate it with. I used a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper, some tape. I used masking tape, but you could use washi tape or medical tape, 2 hair ties, a pair of scissors, and for the inside pages of the journal, we're going to be using brown paper lunch bags. You'll need 2. I made 2 extra just in case. And some glue to stick your scrapbook paper to your manila file folder. Cut down the manila file folder until it's just a little bit bigger than the paper lunch bags. Fold the manila folder piece in half and then strengthen the spine with some tape. I've cut the scrapbook paper in half and I'm now going to glue the outside cover to the manila folder, one side at a time. Starting with the left side, I'm going to glue the scrapbook paper onto the manila file folder. Then fold the scrapbook paper and manila file folder together and then glue the right hand piece of the scrapbook paper to the manila file folder. If you do it this way, rather than gluing the 2 flat pieces together all at once, then this helps prevent the spine from tearing. Before gluing the other piece of scrapbook paper to the inside of the manila file folder, I made little nicks with my scissors in the corners so that I could easily see where the edges of the file folder was when it came to trimming down the scrapbook paper to fit. I glued the second piece of scrapbook paper onto the inside of the manila file folder in the same way as I did the outside, and then trimmed them down to fit. So if you want the bottom of your paper lunch bag to have a little flap, then this is how you would modify your lunch bag. If you unfold the bottom of the lunch bag, we're going to cut along that top fold a couple of inches on both sides, basically until you reach the fold on the side of the lunch bag. Those first two cuts went through both pieces of the folded lunch bag. This next cut is just through the top piece of the lunch bag, and you basically cut from one side to the other. Next, I switched to a bag that wasn't already covered in black gesso to make it easier for you to see. Flatten the bottom of the bag and fold up one side so it looks like a triangle, and we're going to cut along that diagonal line there. You'll have to open up the bottom flap of the bag again in order to actually make the cut. Repeat on the other side of the bag. With this last cut, you'll now have a bottom of your lunch bag that opens up in a flap to give you some extra journal space. Next, I went ahead and used just clear Elmer's to glue down the loose flaps at the bottom of the bag. As I already mentioned, I gave my lunch bags a coat of gesso. Gesso is optional, but I would say highly recommended. Gesso is usually white. I'm using black gesso because I'm painting the bags black. Gesso is basically a primer. So by putting on a coat of gesso first, I will be able to get away with just one coat of black paint. After the bags were covered in gesso and had dried thoroughly, then I put on a coat of black acrylic paint. Once the bags were painted and dry, then I could put my journal together. The paper bags go inside the journal, folded, and then the hair ties act as a closure. You wrap the ties around each other, and then one goes along the spine to keep the bags in the journal, and the other wraps over the journal to act as a closure. 2 paper bags folded gives me 8 sides to work on, one for each of the major phases of the moon. I'm going to draw an outline of the moon on each of the 8 pages using a round object that's about the right size and a silver Sharpie. Next, I used some scrapbook paper that I had left over from another project and the same round object that I used for the moon outlines to create some masks. The main mask will go over every moon apart from the new moon. I'll use the straight edge for the quarter moons. I've got a circular mask for whenever I need a convex shape. I cut out another circle, which I then cut into for when I needed a concave shape. For each moon outline, apart from the new moon, I'm going to cover them with the appropriate masks. Then, using white craft paint and a makeup sponge, I'm going to paint in the illuminated part of each moon. Here I've got my main mask and my round circular mask taped down in order to create a crescent moon shape, which I can now paint in. For the gibbous moon, I'll be using the main mask plus the cut into circular mask in order to create the right football shape. Make sure you don't have too much paint on your sponge because it will run underneath the mask and you'll get a sloppy result rather than a clean, crisp one. The only other tip I have for this particular bit is to apply the paint to the brightest area of the moon first and work inwards from there. Remember to take a look at my latest blog post that is linked in the description box below because it has a summary of everything you need to make the moon journal, links to my other resources on learning about the moon, and a link to the Learning Through Play Facebook group. Remember to let me know in the comments, is a moon journal something you would make, or would you consider buying one that was pre-made? And while you're there, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will speak with you soon.